edition of the Claws Corner. Today's guest is a dating coach, former matchmaker, and a journalist. She has helped women for over 15 years find relationships that make them feel more alluring and special. Her latest book is entitled A Woman's Guide to Understanding Men, Dating Secrets Most Women Don't Know. Please welcome Karenna Alexander to the Claws Corner. Karenna, thank you very much for being on the show. I appreciate it.
Hey, happy to be here, Rich.
Yep.
I enjoyed our talk last time.
Yes, and with this, it's going to be on that was Nutmeg Chatter, another radio show I do. That's only a half hour, so we have a little bit more time to expand on it, which I'm so happy because I read the book and I have so many questions for you. I love the book, by the way. It is written for women, but I really did enjoy it. So let's get right into it. If a woman wants a long relationship with a man of her dreams, what is the best way to achieve that?
Well, there are a few key things. The first is mainly to wait for the man that likes you. Make sure he asks you out, because that means he chose you. He chose your type. He likes your type. And then there's a few things early on in courtship that are very important, that lay the foundation for a good relationship. And one of them is controversial. Actually, a lot of them are controversial.
Yes, I did notice that.
I actually don't. What?
No, I did notice that. I was wondering if you did that intentionally.
Well, no. Well, I didn't. I realize they're controversial, but I believe in them. So it's not like I created these controversial things just because I wanted it to be controversial. I know they work, but I also realize they're controversial. Like I was on vacation with some girlfriends, and one of my friends really believes in it, and she wanted to talk about it in front of all the other friends. And I said, no, let's just talk about it one-on-one, because I don't want to get into an argument on vacation, because some of these tips, as the listeners will see and hear, they go against the norm of what goes on in dating these days.
Yeah.
And I get it. At first, I didn't like them either. Like one of them is, well, the key one, wait for a man to ask you out. Don't pursue a man. Don't even call him. He has to call you to set up dates. One thing a lot of women get really angry about is, or not angry, they're like, there's no, like I always say, wait at least 3 weeks. I'm sorry, 3 months to have sexual relations with the guy.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I can say honestly,
I disagree with that.
No, I agree with that only because with the times that we're living in, with all these sexually transmitted diseases, I would say, you know what? I love that, because if she and I went to bed on the first or second date, I'd be like, all right, I'm not the only guy she did that with. So I actually agreed with that one. And as long as we're getting along, we know that there's something there. We know that down the road we want to be together. I would actually respect that, and I appreciate that, because I know that she's got morals, and she's not just sleeping with everybody that says hi to her. So
I'm gonna quote you on this for a Facebook post. Is that okay? The girls love it when I post things on Facebook from the words of men. So how did you say that again? I love that I'm not the only one she's sleeping.
Yes. Well, I put it with the fact, like in the times that we're living in with sexually transmitted diseases, I would respect that, because I know that I'm not the only, she's not sleeping with everybody that says hi to her. I mean, you put it in your own words, but
no, the way you say it's funnier. She's not sleeping with everybody.
Because you actually quoted me one other time too, was would you don't meet halfway, drive to her house.
That was one of your yes. Yeah, on Facebook, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's funny that you say that, because years ago I lived in Waterbury at the time, and I went out with a girl in Brantford, and I used to drive back and forth every time. And the only thing that got me mad is after a while we were going out, when she came over towards my area, she goes, wow, I can't believe you drove that far. I wouldn't drive that far for you. I was like, whoa, okay.
Wow.
So that was sort of an eye opener there.
Wow.
Yeah. But you talked about, so courtship, I think, is a very important thing. What I disagree with was you said for a woman to wait 3 weeks to call.
Oh, wait, 3 weeks. I don't know if I don't believe I said 3 weeks.
Okay.
I did say 3 weeks earlier, but I meant 3 months, wait 3 months to have sex.
Okay, no, but I thought, okay, so I thought you meant calling 3 weeks to call, because in that case, I would think she wouldn't be interested. Then I would probably move on to somebody else. Just say, all right, well, obviously, you know, she's not interested in me, so maybe I'll move on. That's,
Oh,
but
wait,
okay,
wait.
so
I never, what, actually, I'm not even sure what you're talking about in terms of 3 weeks. Wait.
I thought you said 3 weeks. Maybe you were talking about sleeping together, but I
So
thought you said
was it
calling.
wait for the guy to call, wait 3 weeks to call a guy back? Or wait,
That's
what
what I
did you?
thought you said. I could be wrong with that, but
Oh, okay. So actually, I don't believe in really calling. Well, calling back, sure, but or texting back, of course. I do believe in texting back. Like if he asks it like you on a date, sure, yeah.
now I already know the answer to this because you mentioned it. But in your book, that you say the woman should never ever make the first move.
Right, I really believe that because men and women, okay, it's because men and women are wired differently. And this is one of the things I had a hard time with in the beginning because I had once asked a guy out and I don't know, I thought it was okay. Everyone was doing it. I thought it was normal because women go after the same things men go after, right? Good jobs, good everything, good vacations. We want to own our own apartments, our houses. But so I always thought it was fair too to in relationships that it should be equal. But men and women are different. That's why I say it doesn't really work when the woman pursues the man, because men like a chase, they thrive on a challenge. They're also more visual. Women are visual too, sure. We like a certain type, but on the other hand, women can fall in love between the ears, where men fall in love between the eyes. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
Because like almost every guy I talk to, even if they don't even know I'm a dating coach, like somehow I'll overhear a conversation at a party or men really, they admit they're visual.
Well, I agree with that. The thing is, I think it depends also on your age. I'm 53. In my 20s, I always wanted the hot model on my arm for the eye candy. But as I got older, I obviously need to be attracted to the person I'm going out with. But more important to me is to have things in common and intelligence. And I mean, she could be the most beautiful woman in the world. If there's nothing up here and we're not having any fun together, I would rather have somebody who's not as attractive, but has, who's very intelligent and we have a lot in common. She's well-read. So I realize that's changed for me over the years, but I do know what you mean. I am a very visual person as well, but as I got older, I think the latter became more important.
Right. And also, even when I even believe like in your 20s, after a while, like or even you at your age now in your 50s, like you have to be attracted physically first.
Yeah.
You still do, but you're saying like the inside is more important. And I agree, the inside is important as well to men, but it just has to start with the visual, unfortunately. Like if you're very unattracted and they're a great person, they might become a friend or just someone you trust and like a sister, but it's not going to be the romantic relationship of your dreams because you need that physical spark, and it's just how it is.
Oh, exactly. And you mentioned this. How long does it take for a man to know that he met his dream girl?
Oh, that's a good one, because I think men kind of know physically, they know instantly, but then I think they know early on, like within a month, within a few dates. Because you're right, like when that first instant you meet, a lot of men are like, oh my God, I'm in love. She's my type. She's gorgeous. They talk to her. They really enjoy talking to her. But then say they go on a second date and she turns out to be horrible and shallow and really mean to the waitress and just starts picking on him and saying you picked a really crappy restaurant. So he can tell that's the second date, he figures it out. But then say the first 3, 4, or 5 dates go really amazing and he feels really good with her. She's also hot. His type.
Yeah.
But he also just feels like, one guy said it to me, like, I feel like I'm home. Like you just feel really connected to that person. There's some chemistry there. And then you just see, oh, she would make a great wife. I mean, I think some guys think, marriage-minded men think that deep down, like, wow, she would make a great long-term companion or wife or mother of my kids.
I agree with you. It's because
But
you could meet somebody the first date and just talk and talk and talk and find so many common denominators, and you connect immediately. And and then the second date goes just as well. And after the third and fourth, you're like, yeah, I think this could be the one. I mean, my first time I was engaged was only after a month. That didn't last, so maybe it's a bad example, but the fact is we knew right away. We clicked immediately, had so much fun, and within a month it's like, all right, let's get married. So it's just with that one, said bad example because it didn't work out, but I knew that we had something. And I don't just go out and ask everybody to marry me. So it definitely wasn't that. It was just that she and I felt really connected immediately.
yeah. I think you kind of know in the beginning, especially the older you get too.
Yeah.
I think you know early on. But it
Now
is good to wait.
No, sorry, what was that?
It is good to wait, to see for both sides, to see how people react in certain situations. And
Well, I think the most important thing would be to live with somebody first, because that's when you really find out who they are, I think.
Yeah, it's weird because the thing is, I don't believe in living together, which is interesting because I know it would seem that way, right?
Yeah.
It would seem it would work that way, but there have been so many studies show that it's not, that it doesn't work necessarily that way.
Why is that?
I don't really know. I don't know. I don't know. They've done a lot of studies on it. They found that people that end up living together, and actually I know people that have lived together that have married, but I guess just in general, there's studies have shown that it doesn't work as much long term.
Tell me about the rules.
Yeah, so my book is influenced definitely by the rules, because I became a rules coach while I was a reporter. Like as you brought up, I was a journalist, crime journalist for a long time, and while I was doing that, I was dating and was getting frustrated, with not being able to find the right guy. And then the rules came out, and I don't think it was around, but I just didn't. I don't know where I read about it. I guess I didn't read about it right away. It came out in '95. I didn't read about it right away, but somehow it infiltrated into my consciousness. And at first I was really angry about it. I'm like, this is ridiculous. This isn't fair. Then it just clicked because one relationship didn't work out, and I realized I'd done everything wrong. Not everything, but most things wrong. And I was like, I bet you if I had done what they said, it would have worked, or I would have weeded him out quicker. So then I called the authors. I actually asked them for advice. They became my mentors, and they still are. They trained me as a dating coach. So on the side, I was helping other women. So that's how I really got into the rules. And my book is based on the rules very strongly. My angle is just trying to help women understand men through a rules lens, because a lot of women that I try to explain the rules to are women that call me for consultations. They get it, and they half get it, and they're like, but why? Like, and then when I explain men to them, then they're like, oh, okay. He like, because they want to text a man back in nanoseconds. I'm like, no, that's too easy. Like, men like a little bit of mystery. And once they understand that men aren't wired like women are, then they kind of get why I advocate the things I advocate.
Well, the only thing I think we talked about a little bit is if she didn't text me right away, maybe that's, like you said, a little mystery, a little bit of a chase. But if it was 2 or 3 days, like, okay, maybe she's not interested. That's where I would start to maybe think.
I don't usually say 2 or 3 days.
How long do you think they should wait?
Well, a lot depends on the exact situation too. Like, what are we talking about here? Like, if you meet a woman at a party and then.
Well, you said like don't text back immediately. So say you go out on a first date and then say, oh, I had a great time, love to get together again, and then she doesn't answer. How long should it take for her to get back to you saying, yes, I had a great time as well? I think we do. I had a great time. I'd love to get together again. How long do you think it should take her to text me back?
Yeah, oh no, definitely within the day.
Okay.
But not right away. Like I probably would. I mean, it depends. Like what you text her, maybe a lot of times guys will text like the hour, like right an hour after the date, like they're after they drive home, they'll text, hey, I had a great time. Do you want to see each other again? So I would say the next, like around noon the next day.
Okay, yeah, that's good.
Or 5 o'clock. Like I know for that, if a guy, see if a guy's, what I don't like is when the guy just will text something meaningless, like, hey, I don't know, a joke maybe after the date or something just meaningless, and he doesn't talk about going out on another date. Okay. Then I kind of like, just ignore it. Wait till he asks you out again, because a lot of guys just do random chit chat, pen pal kind of stuff, and it wastes women's time. So a big part of my book is showing them how not to waste time, or now how not to let a guy waste their time, because a lot of guys will do that. So if you're serious minded and asking her out again, that's what I believe in. Dates, women should be on dates, because dates lead to relationships, which lead to marriage, if that's what the woman wants, which a lot of women I work with do.
How long do you think a man should wait?
For what? Oh, to text
her after the date.
Oh yeah. So you know what? Personally, I don't think men have to have as much of a strategy, because I mean, I can tell you, like when a guy texts within an hour, like I'm single now, was dating someone kind of seriously, but it's not serious any longer. So I'm dating, and if they text within the hour, I like that. If I like the guy. I don't like if they wait too long, because then you're like, oh, he's probably not into me. At this point in my life, yeah, maybe some women like bad boys, but at this point in my life, I don't want some guy that's playing a game or that is not that into me. I want someone that's into me. And a guy that's into you, I think he'll text you right away, like within the hour or maybe the next day. You know, maybe
also I was gonna say there's also the case of might be coming across as needy and insecure if you do something too quickly. Because that's the one thing I can't stand. I love a woman that is secure and confident. And I'm sure women like the same thing. And if somebody comes across as like, oh, I had a great time. Do you have a good time? It just might come across, and maybe he doesn't mean it like that, or she doesn't mean it like that. But if they're texting like that, the second she walks out of the car, it might come across like I don't know about this.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. When it's the right guy, though, it's definitely not needy, especially if the guy's not needy, especially if he's like a cool guy who, like a lot of players who aren't needy, because they have like tons of girls all over the place, they will text right away. And I'm not saying you should be a player, but a girl will like that. You know what I mean? So I feel like if the girl likes you, she doesn't really see it that way. And if you're not needy, I don't think it does come across that way. I don't think it's good necessarily to double text. Although to be honest, guys have double texted me and I like it. Yeah. If I like the guy.
No, that's true.
If I like the guy, I guess I don't see needy. Trying to think, there was a case when something did seem a little annoying and needy, and it seemed like the guy, I'm like, just like it was lonely or something. Good guy, but I'm trying to think of the situation. Something he did. Oh, I think I turned him down for like, I don't know, one of the days, Saturday night, and then he's like, well, what about Saturday morning or Sunday morning or Sunday night? Yeah. I mean, it was just a little bit desperate, because it just showed me like he had nothing else going on.
Well, I guess that's what I was getting at. I said, yeah. Even if he or she isn't really like that, if they do things like that, then it might appear to be. But once you start to get to know the person after the third and fourth date, you realize, all right, they're not really like that. And because it's hard to decipher text sometimes of what they're really thinking. Because
exactly,
like sarcasm, you can never. I'm very sarcastic. I like to joke around a lot. A lot of times people think I'm serious. No, I'm just kidding. Unless I put that smiling emoji next to it, they think I'm serious. And I've had that problem before. I said, no, this is just a joke. That's my sense of humor. So that's what I meant by with text seeming like that, even though you're really not.
Right. And, to be honest, that same guy that did that, the thing is, I really wasn't attracted to him enough. He's a good guy, but I just wasn't feeling it.
Yeah.
I wasn't feeling the chemistry was there. I gave him a chance. I have to say, if it was like the guy I really liked, that was, hey, what about Sunday morning or Sunday night? Or if you can't do Saturday night, what about Sunday? It probably wouldn't appear needy. Does that make sense? Like,
It does.
if it's
It
the
does.
guy, because to me, he's so cool and there's something there. There's a connection.
Yeah. Well, yes, if you really like the person, you want to hear from them and you're happy that they are into you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But if it's right, so it's a kind of a fine line. That's why I tell guys not to worry too much. To be honest, I think men.
There's one rule I have a question about though. The rule that you said women should only go out with a guy on Saturday night, no other day of the week. Why is that?
I know a lot of people really question that, and I have even a girlfriend who's into the rules who told me that she was a beta reader for my book. You know what that is, right? Like
Yes.
she kind of
They-
reads.
They look it over for mistakes.
Yeah, and just any red flag type things that she might notice. But one thing she said was that she didn't agree with that. She said, because she likes to do other things on Saturdays. What about Sunday? But I don't know. It's just one of those courtship rules that it's really, to me, it's just it runs smoother. This whole courtship thing that I write about, like really, like on Saturday night, who do you really want to be with? Like, have you ever been alone on a Saturday night? Like I have.
Yeah.
What?
No, you asked me if I was ever been alone on Saturday night.
Yeah.
It's last night.
Yeah, and I didn't want to be like when I didn't want to be alone or like I wanted to be out and about. I mean, that's the night like you're thinking, oh, I wish my Mr. Right was here because that's who you want to be with on Saturday night. It's you just want to be with. I feel like with the person you love on Saturday night. To me, it's just one of those things. Who else are you going to be with? And it's just a more formal night. In that, like, restaurants cater to couples on Saturday night. Like Sunday night, you have to usually get ready for work the next morning, so it's a little bit more of a stressful night. Saturday night's just like one of the nights you can let down, and it's just a romantic night. Friday's just usually a rough night because a lot of people work, and then Friday's okay to go out. It's not that. It's just Saturday. You have time to like get ready. Women have time to get ready. It's just a romantic night. And to be honest, one thing, there's a couple little things about Saturday night. I'm not saying 100%, like if you're an emergency room doctor, I'm not saying you have to quit your job just to date a girl. You know what I mean? But there's
Yeah.
and if you have kids, there's ways around this.
Yeah.
But I just find in general, like if you're really not working Saturday night or you don't have your kids Saturday night, it's great to get, for women, it's really good to get guys on the Saturday night track. It just becomes this really nice way to date. You see him once a week. He looks forward to seeing you on Saturday night. It's like something he looks forward to all week. And you only see him once a week. That's part of it.
For how long?
But one quick thing I want to say, it's a good way to also weed out men who are married, because men who are married, they'll see you on Friday night or Sunday night.
Yeah.
They don't, because their wives want to be with them on Saturday night. So I say, okay, so for how long? Yeah, that's a good, so that's why I say wait 3 months, because if people are like, they're like crazy, they're like 3 months, but what if I see him every day for those 3 months? You're saying wait 90 dates? And I'm like, no, because you're not going to see a guy every day. You're going to see him once a week for probably for 3 or 4 months. That's what I believe. And then and then you could consider, at that point, is he seeing me every Saturday night? Is he good to me? And then you can consider, sleeping with him if you feel like you.
Yeah. If you have, by then I would hope you'd know if you have a connection or not. I'm hoping you both feel it. Yeah. Right.
And you could, and for the woman, you could tell if he's a good guy or not. I want them to know he's a good guy. And no one knows for sure, but to me, it's a good time to let your hair down a little bit, and then perhaps add in another day, But to be honest, what I found is adding in too much time during the week, lose a lot of your own free time. And then what if he turns out to be Mr. Wrong? So I just tell women to be careful. And it goes for his advantage too, because the guy has someone to sleep with, but maybe he's not going to marry you. I also tell women to multi-date as long as they can, like, because some guys will ask to be exclusive, but others don't. So if a guy doesn't, I just say try to date others, which in the book I explain, it's not sleeping with like 5 different men, but it's like, even if you like one main guy and you see him and he's asking you out every Saturday night, you know, sometimes the rug does pull out from under you. Maybe it doesn't work out. So it's just good to have your balls in the air.
What do you recommend if one guy says, I want to be exclusive, I don't want you seeing other men, I really like you, and this is only after the second date? Do you think she should say, let me think it over?
Yeah. I usually tell women, wow, to say something, oh, wow, that's really nice. Let me think about it. And then think about it. And I would honestly wait a little bit, because you really don't, no one really.
No, but didn't mean to interrupt you. I was going to say, what if that was the main guy on that list and he really liked her and she really liked him and he was so adamant about it? Do you think that she should think it over and say, okay, let me give it a chance? Or do you think she should still stick to her guns and say, nah, I'm going to think about it, and I like how it's going, let's take it slow?
What's that?
No, so do you think that she should still take it slow, even if that's the main guy on her list and he's adamant about it and he goes, I really like you, I want to be with you, and it's only 2 dates?
Yeah, I do, because even though guys like come on strong early on, they can pull back, and I think women should protect themselves. Guys, I've seen guys after 3 months of perfectness, like asking a girl out every Saturday, you know, then they just get a little weird after they sleep with the girl, or they just, so I just think it's better to wait a little bit. I really do, for women, for the woman's sake.
Funny, because years ago I used to be a manager of Rite Aid, and I had a lot of younger cashiers, and they were all women. And it was, talking to them was funny, because a lot of the younger girls, I want to say between 19 and 23, they were all about the chase. They'd say, oh, I just like getting a guy to like me, then I dump them. I said, what's the fun in that? Oh, I just love the chase. I said, don't you want to be with somebody that actually likes you? No, I just, and so they were all, it seemed like the older they got, the more they appreciated a good guy and they wanted to be with them, and they wouldn't play as many games.
Yeah, maybe. That sounds crazy. I mean, that does sound really immature.
It was, well, the people, yeah, that's why I wanted to let you know their ages, because it said between 19 and 24, but it wasn't just one girl I talked to. There were so many, and they loved people that treated them like dirt. They'd come in complaining all the time. Rich, what do I do? This and that. I give them advice, and they go right back to, I said, don't even ask me questions, because you're not even listening to me. But they loved that. And that, I guess they considered that a bad boy. But I said, somebody that treats you like dirt is not a bad boy. They're just a jerk.
Wow. Yeah. But it's true. It's when you're younger, for some reason, it just seems exciting.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's more exciting. And maybe, I think a lot of women think the guy that has a lot going on, has all these women after him, dates a lot of women, is the cool guy. I don't know. Maybe he's just good at talking and winning women over, but I don't know if he's good long term. But I guess at 23, maybe they don't care, or maybe they need to like hit rock bottom. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Go get some bad. Realize that it's no fun being dumped and it's no fun to be with a player, and you don't want to be married to a player for sure. Some women are, but
I think the older you get, the more educated you become, and especially through experiences. The more experiences you have, the more bad experiences you realize, like, all right, I don't want to deal with this anymore. And then you've settled down for what you really want. I've seen that a lot. How many of the rules do you have? Is there a certain amount of rules?
When the rules book was written by by Ellen and Sherry, they're the authors, Ellen Fine and Sherry Schneider. I believe they had 35 rules. Wow. My book is divided up differently. Like the first part is how to weed out time wasters. And there's just several ways of doing that. And the big
time
one,
waster?
the guy that has no serious intentions. He could be married, he could have a girlfriend, he could just think you're pretty, but no, deep down, you're not marriage material for me, or deep down, she's not the woman I have the spark with. So that's a big one. A lot of guys will just date a woman until their dream girl comes along. And that's a tough thing for women, because a lot of women get confused by this. That's why I really wrote this book. I want them to know that, because a lot of women tell me, well, he's asking me out, for 5 days a week. He must like me. But I'm like, but is he asking you out for Saturday? Is he paying? Is he respectful when you say you don't want to sleep with him? Or is he calling you last minute for dates? Like, if you follow all the rules in that beginning section, where he has to ask you in advance for Saturday, where he only asks you for Saturday, where he does respect the fact that you're going to wait to have sex with him. If you follow it, if he pays, you can be a little bit more assured that he's more of a serious guy and less of a time waster.
That's actually, I'm glad you brought that up, because I wanted to talk about that. I agree with you in the very beginning, the guy should pay, but how long do you think he should continue to pay? Say you're going out for 6-7 months. Do you think at any time they can go Dutch?
Not really. I don't believe in Dutch, because, and it's not because it's a gold digger thing. It's really not. Because sometimes the women make even more money than the men that I've worked with. A lot of times, not all the time, but it's really not about that. It's just about pursuing the woman and wanting to take care of her, and showing her that he's going to take care of her, and that eventually she'll be part of his team. And then when he does put a ring on it and they become part of each other's team, and then it's okay to obviously combine things. But I still think it's something romantic about a man picking up the check, even when like a couple is married. My friends and I that are very into this dating philosophy, like, we notice when the woman picks it up, and it's just something like unappealing about it. Obviously when you're married, everything's combined. That's how I feel. So I don't think it's the worst thing, but it's just, we like the whole chivalrous thing where the man takes care of the woman.
Here's how I look at it. After going out with somebody for a while, like I've been going out with my fiance for 4 years now. I think sometimes it's good where, say we want to do 3 or 4 things and I don't have enough money for all of it. So I'll say, well, I'll pay for this, you get that. And then we're able to do more things and have more fun than it would be if I just paid for, say, one thing. It's like, sorry, I wish I could go, but I really can't afford that. That's where I think the Dutch comes in handy. And I'm talking about, like, after you're engaged, after you've been going out for a while.
Yeah, I said once you're engaged, I think things can maybe loosen up. But to be honest, yeah. But I also, so the other thing, I also don't believe in like being engaged for longer than a year. So, because I feel like, especially for the woman's perspective, I don't know, a lot of times women want things wrapped up quicker. And I think people know within a year. And I think it's a good time to like tie up your finances, merge them, which maybe that's scary for some people, but
yeah,
it's a whole other topic. But
what is the spiritual gym?
Okay, so yeah, this is so a lot of what I talk about in the book is hard to do, right? It goes against, well, you're not a woman, so you don't have to do it, but it does sound.
I'm glad I'm a man. Reading your book, all the rules that you have.
Well, because you don't realize how hard it is for women. Like, as a dating coach, I really see how hard dating is for women emotionally. Women are much more emotional, I've noticed. Yeah. Like, men can really move on quicker to the next girl. Women just get really devastated when things don't work out. But so the spiritual gym is a place to go where they just work on their inner side, their inner self, whether it's dealing with the anxiety of waiting for a guy you'd like to call you back, or waiting, like, say you're with a guy for 9 months and you think he wants to marry you and you want to marry him, but you're not sure and you're anxious. I mean, That's when I say have some spiritual thing to keep you going, because otherwise you're going to go nuts, or you're going to talk to your friends and drive them nuts. Like we all have those friends, and I'm sure I've been that friend too that talked too much about the guy I liked, and it just turned my friends off, because you know there's only one person can take so much. You know what I mean? So, or you'll drink too much or smoke too much. But like those are all bad options. That's why I find it's better to have some spiritual thing where you could go to just journal. I mean, to be honest, there was one guy that I liked so much. And I remember one Saturday I was getting my hair done, and just we were supposed to meet that night, but I hadn't heard from him. He hadn't really confirmed, but I was pretty sure we were meeting because he had confirmed earlier in the week. But I was like, usually he confirms Saturday too, and I haven't heard from him. So I was like, I was so nervous that this was the end, that I just started journaling it out. Like, to me, that's the spiritual gym. You just go inside and try to work things out in a healthy way.
Would you recommend meditation?
Well, for me that day, it was journaling, just writing it all out. Meditation, sure. Reading a book, calling a dating coach, or even a 12-step group, because a lot of women, there's a lot of 12-step groups out there for all kinds of things, but they're also very spiritual, so they can keep you on track where you don't overspend to make yourself feel better, or drink too much, or
Well, I think
drugs.
this is a good time, because now with social media, there's a group for everything. You can click online, and I'm sure if a woman needed a group for, emotional support, there's going to be a group for that, and then they can talk to them. So I think for what you're talking about right now, it's probably one of the better times where they have more access to get their feelings out without feeling that they're burdened to their friends, and like, okay, I'm so sorry for complaining about this. What I found funny, because it's along the same subject, you said don't treat the man like your therapist when you're going out on a date, which I found funny.
That's another reason why you should go into spiritualism. That's perfect segue, because that's what too many women do. They, and I'm sure I've done this when I was younger and I didn't understand these true dating truths. Like, you just vent to the guy. I do remember a serious boyfriend I had for when I was much younger in college, and oh my God, like he just was like my savior in that. Like, I told him everything I was upset about, but a lot of heavy stuff. You know what I mean? Like, he didn't need to be burdened with all that. It's like kind of a burden. And a lot of women are like, well, he should know everything about you, but not really. Like, guys want to have fun. I mean, I hate to put it like that, because it makes it sound like guys aren't deep, but guys don't want to be your therapist, and it's not fair. It's not fair to make him your therapist.
Yeah.
I don't think it's not fair to make anyone your therapist. Just find a therapist and unload on them, and then be your best self with the guy, which I think it almost elevates you, because then sometimes when you fake it till you make it, you kind of make it. Like,
I think in the very beginning, I mean, I can see 6-7 months down the road, or even before that, when you really get to know the person and you start to fall in love, you talk about your problems. But in the very beginning, I might go, oh, she's got so many issues. I don't know. I don't want to get involved in this mess. That would probably scare me off in the very beginning. If she started doing this on the second and third date. So I completely in agreement with that.
Yeah. Just be careful. And, sometimes things just come out like, oh, you got a speeding ticket. Okay. So just mention it, but don't like go on for a half hour about how you're going to get out of it, or your last, how many points are against your license, and how you wish you didn't take the new job because you have to drive more, and that's why you got. I mean, you know what I mean? Some women can go on, and it's just the guy doesn't want to hear that on the Saturday night date. I mean, he wants it to be light and fun, and you want it to be light and fun, because the thing is with courtship, especially the first few months of it in the beginning, guys kind of remember that forever.
Yep.
That really special time. The way you look, the way they felt when they were around you. And that's a good foundation to build a long-term relationship, according to my philosophy.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And I think one of the biggest things I see with a lot of people is going on a couple dates and complaining about their ex and how they treat their kids and this and that is a big thing. It's
Yes.
like, okay.
Oh my
It's like,
God.
I don't want to get involved in this whole mess. It's going to be you and back and forth with your ex. And so I definitely agree. Like I said, I'm going to reiterate it. Maybe down the road, that's fine to talk about. But yeah, in the first or second date, I don't want to hear about that. I just want to have fun.
Yeah.
Let's go to see a show, comedy show, a concert. Let's dance. Let's have fun. So that's what I'd be looking for in the very beginning.
Yeah,
So-
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and of course you want to know, like at some point we all get curious, like what happened. You want to know. Did he cheat on her? Because then if you want to know exactly what happened, but not in the beginning.
Yeah,
But
just have fun.
And you don't talk about it too much. If the ex has to come up early on for whatever reason, just bring it up in a quick way. I mean, you're right. It's all about, it should be about just getting to know one another, not about getting to know your ex, and it should be about having fun. So should a long-term relationship. That's why I don't think a relationship, even a serious one or a marriage, it shouldn't be about therapy. It shouldn't be about working out your problems with each other. I know that it sounds like bad in a way, like, or maybe it didn't come out right, but I just don't think it, even when you're married, it's not like your man shouldn't be your savior. For, like I tell women, the guy is not going to save you. You have to really do the work and be your best self on your own.
Yeah, no, I agree with
You
that.
don't want to drag him down. Of course, he should be supportive and helpful, but
Yeah, if he's completely ignoring your problems and just worried about what's going on in his life, then maybe they're not compatible. But
right.
you can support, but just don't be that person. I agree with you. Where every time something happens, oh, I need to talk to you. I need to talk to you about this. Yeah. After a while, that might become tiresome as well.
Right. And you know what, the reason I like that chapter about spiritual gem is I think it helps women just become their higher selves and become better people, even with their friends and girlfriends, and even with their family. Like, even family members who love you, they don't want to hear every day about how you're so broken up about how your life turned out, or so broken up about some, like, nobody wants to be around someone that's miserable all the time. Even people who love you, they want to know that you're, I mean, the nicest people to be around, I think, are just the people that see the glass half full.
Yeah.
Have a good attitude, and that's all I think what's important about how to lead a good life, right? I mean, I think that's one of the biggest keys. I think the people that are happiest, they focus on their attitude, not on their circumstances necessarily, because circumstances, I mean, who the heck knows what can happen to any one of us, right? And everyone, I think they've said too, there was a study about, I forget, like people that got into really bad accidents, I think that they discovered, like, after the accident, 6 months later, they returned to their same happiness level. Like, anyway, so I just feel like attitude is a big thing.
Big thing I've seen in my encounters is people that have passions and hobbies and interests are the most happiest. The people that don't have anything except for just sitting around and thinking about everything that's negative in their life, those are the most downers, or the biggest downers that I've encountered. The people
That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. I know people like, oh, I love doing this. I love going hiking. I love going skydiving. I love doing this. And they're full of life. They love everything. And they get in their bad moods when something happens, but they quickly get over it. Other people I know just sit home, go to work, wake up, go to work, come home, watch TV, have supper, go to bed, like over and over again. Those are the people I know. I even said one time to somebody, I said, all right, let's start off with what you actually like instead of what you hate. That just got me even more mad. It was one of my friends. I said, there's got to be something that you're not negative about. I
know.
Yeah.
I know. And there is a lot of negativity in the world, negative people and bad things, but yeah, it's
got to be something out there that they like. Yeah,
exactly.
Well, let's get back to dating, because tell me about the oldest trick in the book.
Sorry. Oh God, this is a fun one because I think a lot of men do it, and some of them, I think, maybe are players. Some of them probably just do it because they like you, but I just think it's it's a trick. Whether the guy really knows it or even if he's a nice guy, it's like a guy will offer to cook for you at his house. And I'm saying it's not always a bad guy that offers, you know, sometimes the guy just wants to cook for you and have you come to his house. But a lot of times guys are doing it with the underlying motivation that
Ulterior motive. Yeah.
Ulterior motive.
Well, the funny thing is that I can't cook, so that would backfire on me. It'd be 2 TV dinners. All right, honey.
Oh my God, that's great. Yeah, so the guys that do it, like I said, they're not always bad men, but sometimes they are, you know, or not bad, but sometimes they're just players. They're trying to get you to sleep with them right away. So just don't fall for it. I'm not saying break up with the guy who does it. Just, you know what I always tell women to say? I just say, you know, tell them, oh gosh, I'd prefer to go out. Guys think that this is something, some guys think, oh, this is the sweetest thing, you know, I'm like cooking for her, I'm doing all this work for her, but it's not, the way I see it, it's not really a lot of work. He just makes dinner. The bedroom is right near the kitchen, right? He doesn't have to drive and pick her up. She has to drive to him in her high heels. What I say in the book, basically he wants you to serve herself up to him on a silver platter. And I just don't think that's cool. I actually, the more I think about it, the more I think it's trashy. I know the more I think about it, a girl dressing up, makeup, putting her heels on, driving to his house. His intention is to sleep with her. I mean, I just think he's got to work harder for her.
Is that the same issue you have with home dates?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I don't think this is in the beginning. You know, I'm not saying never ever drive to a guy or never have a home date, obviously, but guys can get really lazy, really easy, and then they don't court a woman anymore, and then it just gets stale, and then he never proposes, or the woman feels like she wonders, does he still love me? I don't know. It just gets stale, and I don't want it to be stale. I want it to be romantic and, you know, loving, obviously. And I want the woman to always know, you know, that she's feeling loved and secure.
Well, that's another good segue, because in the book, you say that a man likes to be in charge and let him lead. Now, what if she's a type A personality and he does not have a type A personality, and she's more of the one in charge? Is there certain exceptions to that rule, or should the man always say, I'm going to take charge? I'll give you an example. For me, pretty much every woman I went out with, I love coming up with ideas. I love doing things. I love being in charge. So I just do it naturally. But I know some people that are shyer, and they've actually, a couple of my friends go out with women who are a little bit stronger, and they like it like that. Yeah.
So that's a good point. So, this book isn't for everyone. If a woman wants to be the masculine one where she's always asking the guy out, that's fine. But just realize that you're going to always be asking him out. You're going to be the one asking him to marry you. You're going to be the one buying the flowers for Valentine's Day. You're going to be the one making all the decisions. You're going to be the one taking out the trash. You're going to be doing a lot of the masculine things, and he's going to be the one that's maybe not going to fight for you, or he's going to be the passive one. And just accept that that's what it's going to be like. That's fine. I think everyone should do what they want. But if you're a woman who wants to be pursued, who wants to be really secure that, you know, he's the one that's going to pursue, that he's going to ask you out, ask you to marry him, that he's going to want to plan everything going forward, plan a future. If you're the woman asking him out and planning things, like, you're going to have to plan the future. So don't get mad if he doesn't know where the future is going, because you're the one driving it forward.
You know what they're getting into.
And yeah, and then I find when it's equal, it's just more like friendship, to be honest. Personally, that's my experience. It's more of a less romantic kind of relationship, and that's okay for people too. Obviously, people have that as well.
Yeah.
this kind of relationship is just much more romantic, and to me, I feel like it just works better because it suits the two sexes. And this is for straight women or straight or bi who want to be with a straight guy. This is a niche. It's not, I don't really write for, not that I don't write for the gay LGBTQ plus population. I'm not a specialist in it. Like, although I have had some gay clients who did benefit from some of these ideas. And they were the ones that did want to be courted. So they liked the ideas I wrote about, but in a lot of the, and like I said, I'm not an expert, but in some gay relationships, they're more equal, I feel. So this may not be I'm not the right coach for them. This might never be the right book.
That's interesting because you have clients all over the world.
Yeah.
Do you tailor it to the demographic?
No, that's a good question. Did you read you read my book, right?
Yes, I did. I did read your book.
I'm teasing. I know you did, because you told me you did and I believe you, because I remember you telling me I haven't read it, and then you told me when you read it, you're like, I read it. So I totally believe you, and I'm just teasing you because there's a whole chapter in the book about that, where I don't really have to tailor the advice to the demographic. Because men are the same everywhere.
Yeah, give a little plug.
It's right in this book here. Like, I'll find the chapter while we're talking. Well, that's what I've personally found, and that was
right here.
Yeah. Oh, thanks. Yeah. I'm gonna try to find that exact sentence here. Men are the same everywhere.
Which doesn't sound. You don't say it in a positive light. Men are the same.
No. Well, shoot. Let me see. I think it's the last chapter.
I don't even remember anymore, because as I was reading it, I was writing questions down. Like, all right, I have to talk to her about this. I want to talk to her about this.
Yeah, actually, you know what? I initially titled the chapter "Men Are the Same Everywhere," but I didn't. It ended up not making the chapter head, but it's in right here in the conclusion, second paragraph. No matter what part of the world you're from, these strategies work. Men are the same everywhere. Don't make excuses for a man based on the country he's from. So that's the reason I wrote that, was because years before I decided writing the book, I kept noticing, like, oh my God, it's hilarious. Like, women in France were saying, men in this country are like feminists. They like women to ask them out. And I'm just making up the country because like every country was the same. They would say men in this country are cheap, or but it wasn't just one country. It was just in every country they would say it. Yeah. And they don't want to pay for a woman, or men in this country don't want to do the drive. They just won't drive. But women say that in New York, but they're like, the New York men just won't drive to me, or they won't take the subway to me, or they won't meet me on my turf. And then, but women say that in Moscow. Like, it's not just, you know what I mean? They're just the same. And my point is, like, there are excuses that all men use, but when it's the right one, okay, so that's what this is all about. When you're his dream girl, he'll do the drive, he'll pay, he'll move things forward fast, he'll take you off the market fast, he'll ask you to marry him. Yeah. And yeah, that's what I found. The hard part, and I admit this is hard, is waiting for that one. And that's why the spiritual gym is so important. And you know, another thing, this isn't, a lot of women do want to get married. Some women say they don't want to get married. Personally, if I meet the right guy, I do want to be married, but if it's not the right guy, I don't want to be, you know what I mean? So, and some women just don't even want to be married. Even if they meet the right guy, they just don't want the complications of a marriage. I don't know. Maybe they had
that's why I'm surprised that the rules suggest that you shouldn't live together first. I think that would be a great way to see what married life would be like. Because the only thing missing is the piece of paper and the ring. Yeah.
I think they think it goes against, well, and I also believe this, like, I just think it goes against a woman's interests. If you live with a man, he gets to have, you know, everything about you, sex with you, he gets to live with you. but he doesn't have the formal commitment, and he could really leave whenever he wants. And I think some women need that commitment. I think sometimes even for their emotional sense, but not all women want that. Like some women are really happy, and I'm not saying it's wrong. If you have this great guy, you followed all these rules, and you're living with a guy and he's really good to you, and maybe you don't want to get married because your finances are complicated, or
Yeah.
I don't know. There could be reasons, or maybe you're gun shy, you're commitment phobic, but he's dying to marry you. I'm writing for women. So this is really more to protect the women. I want the women to be protected because I've seen way too much of women giving too much and getting hurt too much and not having boundaries. I really appreciate you trying to understand this because you're a nice guy, you're a sensitive guy, but you're not a guy. So I don't think even you, as sensitive and nice as you are, I don't think you totally get, because you're not a woman, you don't get the extent that women have been hurt by men. And
Well,
maybe
no, I
not,
agree with. No,
maybe
didn't
not
mean
by
to
you,
interrupt you.
but by other women, by other men.
Well, no, I agree with you that it's easier for being a guy. It's easier, I think, for men to move on and say, okay, well, it was great while it lasted. It's time to move on to my next chapter. Women, even the ones I've gone out with in the past, become a lot more emotionally attached.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I definitely agree with that because I've seen that firsthand with past relationships. So
That's really
I
good
definitely
that
know what
you
you're saying. Yeah.
Good. That's good that you admit that.
Yeah.
Some guys don't even see that, and it's frustrating. That's why I don't always have long conversations with men about this, because it's just, they're not that deep, and it's good that you see that at least. I'm not saying they're bad, it's just they don't think that deeply and they don't realize.
I'll admit it, I do realize it, and that's how I am.
But you get it, you get women, you've seen it. Yeah. So a lot of men, they don't see that women get very emotional.
Because they can't understand. I'm talking about past experiences where I said, come on, we had a great time. I have no regrets of what happened. It just didn't work out for you. And then I moved on. Like, how can you move on so quickly? And that happened. I can say at least 3 or 4 out of relationships we've had that conversation where I just said, you know what? I'm not going to regret anything that happened here. I loved the relationship we had, but we're just not compatible. And they were still, 2 weeks later, we try it again. Can we get back together? And I found that in the past, I've gotten back together with an ex, and then I realized almost immediately why we broke up in the first place. So sometimes you need that. You need to get back together with them for maybe a date or 2, and you're like, yeah, it's all coming back to me now.
I know.
You do miss them in the beginning. It's not the same. It's like, oh, she and I would be doing this right now. Oh, we used to have so much fun. Then I go back out with them, and then the same conversations crop up and the same arguments. Like, yeah, okay, I'll talk to you later. So that's sometimes I think you need that just to get it out of your system and realize, all right, it's over.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Right. To be sure. Exactly.
Well, you say that men enjoy and thrive on the chase. I want you to tell me about Karenna's story.
Oh, with the chase?
Remember that one? There was a story you had about this woman named Karenna I thought was very interesting.
Oh, which one was it? Because I don't remember using a Karenna in the book. Oh, was it?
Karenna, maybe. We'll move on with that because I can't remember exactly what the whole story was. It did have to go with women who men that thrive on the chase, but let's go to the next question.
Well, we can find it, but I don't remember.
Yeah, I should have written down a couple of details about the story, but while you're looking for that, why less is more with men?
Yeah, because it took me a while to figure this out, because I think it started with, like, on dates, realizing that men don't like women that are chatterboxes, or that at least men don't really like women that talk too much. most people don't really.
Yeah.
To be honest. You want it to be equal, or men like women that are good listeners. So I think it started with that, realizing and telling women, you know, you got to tone it down on dates, telling clients that, and even in their text, sometimes they would show me texts, like text exchanges between themselves and guys. And they would write so much more than the guy. Even actually a guy friend showed me this once, and it was like horrifying to see how much this woman wrote compared, and he would just give one word answers. So that
Yeah.
just vocally and text wise, word wise, and just say less and more.
Yeah.
In person and even via text, because guys just don't have a lot of capacity for a lot of words, I don't think.
No, you are absolutely correct. I am in complete agreement with that. And it's funny you said that, because I've actually had girlfriends in the past like, I wrote this whole long thing. All you put was okay or yes. And I wasn't even being cold. I wasn't even trying to be. It's just that I didn't want to go back and forth with text about what she was talking about. I said, let's talk about this in person, because it was just so much information that she was throwing at me all at once. So I definitely agree with that one.
Yeah, exactly. So good. I'm glad you agree. I mean, I've found this to be true too in so many cases. So that was a big thing. But also I find, let's see, there's other situations, like even with clothing, there's a chapter where I talk about less being more. Just, you know, a lot of women think they have to buy all these designer outfits and this costumey stuff that's on the runway, you know, to be considered hip and cool. But I find less is more that way too. And you don't need a ton of jewelry. Like sometimes women go overboard with big chunky necklaces and bangles and watches and bangles here, and then a big belt, and then a lot of just, you know, so I like a little bit of a bangle, you know, or I like the hoop earrings and a little bit of glitz here and there, but like, don't go overboard with clothing too. So less is more that way. Also, just in terms of like going back to the just talking about your personal life. I think men like to know, maybe the thing that's tricky is sometimes they'll ask a million questions and women will answer them, but then it's too much. Like just don't, if a guy gets too personal, you don't have to answer everything right away. So less is more with even just like questions. Don't let him know too much about you in the beginning. Don't show him a window into your soul too quickly. That's all. Men like a little mystery, even if he's asking you questions, because then it's unfair, but that's what happens. They ask you questions and then you answer them, but then they get bored. So go less with just, you know, personal things about you. Also like less dates. That's why I like the once a week. I think in the rules they were saying you could see someone, you know, twice a week after the second month, and then 3 times a week after the third month. To me, I'm like, that's like, I'm a little stricter on that, because I think less is more, much more. And I think, and personally too, like I'm so busy during the week that once a week on a Saturday night works for me. And I think it's actually, like I said, I think it's more, it gets you further with the guy anyway. Like women will think, oh, how are you going to get to know each other once a week? But actually the guy becomes more enamored, I think, when he only sees you once a week. Like I said, he's all excited to see you during the week. He wants to keep moving it forward. And then they move it forward faster. A guy will move it forward faster.
Yeah. I feel bad though, because as you mentioned, you're trying to go out with the one night that you recommend that everybody should go out was on a Saturday. I'm sure that's the day that you're trying to go out, live your own life. And that's when you get all the phone calls saying, what do I do? What do I do? What's going on? He said this. What should I say back? Does that happen to you a lot?
Yeah. Well, sometimes, to be honest, sometimes I've answered things in the bathroom. I've gone to the bathroom.
You're like, I'll be right back. You just went to the bathroom.
I'm sure I'm not the only dating coach that's done that.
That's funny. Well, you made a comment that my fiance would definitely agree with. We've had this conversation before. A man's actions, not his words, will show his heart. Because she said, you can say whatever you want. Why don't you show me? Like, so we've had conversations when we've gotten mad at each other. So she read part of your book, and there's some things that she didn't agree with, but she definitely loved that part.
Oh, good. Yeah, you know, this is a tricky one. I found even I would I would get stuck on this because I would get stuck on a guy's words because like you want to believe the words, right? You want to believe that they're like, he'll be like, even like, I'll call you. Like I remember one guy, this is years ago, like when I was younger, in my 20s, I remember getting so stuck on it. I was like, it's been a week and he hasn't called. Like, I just could not believe that he said it and he didn't call. And now it's like, now I'm like, obviously much more experienced in this area. And I know that I shouldn't have wasted a week thinking about him because I'll call you is like one of those things that guys say and they don't mean. And basically it means nothing until he calls. And you know, in the moment he might feel like he wants to call you, but then he doesn't. So just don't focus on the words. And I'm not saying words are bad. Like we all like beautiful words. We all like being charmed, but we want the follow through too.
Oh, exactly. And I can say maybe he did mean it in the very, very beginning and he really wants to, but then, you know, life is so crazy. You got work, you got kids, you got this and that. But now there's really no excuse because you could just text like, I'm sorry, I can't wait to see you again.
Exactly.
So yeah, it's a lot harder to make excuses for not getting in touch with the person now because
yeah, no, I also think there's no excuses. If a guy likes you, he'll call you, even if he's busy. You know what I found out with that guy? I mean, not that it means anything, but it's funny, you always you don't always find out, but there's usually a reason, you know, that they don't like you enough. That's my philosophy. Or for whatever reason, they're not into you enough. Or they're with someone else. I found out like a year later, that guy had just had a baby. So I was like, he probably was with somebody because if he had a baby a year later, he was just meeting somebody or with somebody and getting her pregnant. So it's like you always find out, or not always, but when I do find out like what happened, there was one dream guy I wrote about, like, it was like a be careful what you wish for kind of post. Some like really a guy who seemed to have everything I wanted, but then I found out he was engaged, and I was like, why can't I have, like, I wanted that guy, like that was my type. Why did he have to just get engaged to somebody else? And I remember being kind of like sad about it. I wrote I did write a blog about this, I believe, or a Facebook post on it, and it was just a bummer because like it was, you know how when someone just ticks off all the boxes, like a dream guy, for like guys have their dream girl, women have this guy too, they have an image of, right, who's like they think is the perfect guy. Oh my god, but then 10 years later I found out so many bad things about him.
It took you that long?
I won't even like I don't want to reveal exactly who it is, but he came out in the media for like some big meltdown, and then I found out like he had gotten divorced to that woman he was engaged with and was involved with somebody else, but somebody who I was 100% completely different from. There's not a chance in hell like that if he liked that type, he would like me. Like just so many things were wrong about that person, and it just made me realize like sometimes the things you wish for,
well, I'm glad that didn't work out for you,
aren't really good for you in the end. But like we beat ourselves up and we think we lost something, but we didn't. We were saved, really.
Well, I always look at it this way. I said, if one relationship doesn't work out, there's always going to be someone else out there. This isn't the last woman on earth. So I have that attitude, which goes back to men get over things quicker, where like, well, I had fun while it lasted. There's going to be somebody else out there. It's not like the last time I'm going to find love. So I never really get too depressed over it. I mean, obviously it hurts in the very beginning and it takes a little while to get over it, but time heals all wounds. So I can bounce back pretty quickly, and that's
great.
Yeah,
that's great that you can.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I like what you said too about dating rich people. Wealth doesn't always equal happiness, and that is so true because it goes back to what we were talking about when you said even if the woman makes more than the man should still pay. But so you're not really like you said, you're not a gold digger, but people who might be a gold digger, oh boy, I'm gonna have it, man, we live in a mansion, you have the best cars. And it could be the worst relationship ever. There's not going to equal happiness.
Yeah. Got to be careful of that. And I do get a fair amount of women that are looking for that. And, you know, there's nothing wrong with money. And hey, if he has money, that's great. But be careful. Yeah, just be careful, because it doesn't mean he's going to be generous with you. Unfortunately, you have to really consider that. And he might lose his money. He might lose his health.
Yes.
And then you have to take care of him, and there's no jet setting life anymore, right? That you signed up for.
Yeah.
Or you're going to divorce him. Okay. But that's just very surface. I don't know. Is that the kind of life you want to lead? I don't know. So I just tell women, I mean, it's not that I'm against anyone that's wealthy. It's just love is more important. True love and a good guy is more important. And some women, I just say, work, if you really want wealth that bad, work on it on your own.
Yeah. No, exactly. And you said, what do you recommend as a good conversation to have in the very beginning, and what should a woman stay away from?
Yeah. So I always tell the women to let the guy kind of lead the conversation, because you learn a lot by that too. If a guy just sits there and doesn't have any questions, which sometimes does happen, that means he's just waiting for you to entertain him. And that's not a good sign. Like, when a guy's interested in you, he'll ask you questions. But yeah, I'd be careful. I'd tread lightly around politics. I wouldn't be, to be honest, it's a tricky one, because especially in these days, things are very controversial right now politically.
Yes.
It's like the first time I've seen where it's like a deal breaker, more so than prior years. Last few years have been tough.
To say it light.
Matchmakers what's that?
No, I said to say that lightly. The last couple of years have been very tough.
Yeah.
And I've seen so many people go, "Oh, I'm not dating this person if he's a Democrat. I'm not dating this person if he's a Republican." I've heard that so many times, and I've never heard that before 2016.
I know, right? And a lot of matchmakers haven't either. There was actually a story on it, I think, in the New York Times or somewhere. I saw not recently, but a while back. But you know what? I think that's the thing that bothers people the most, is when people are so adamant, like, I will never date a Republican, or if you voted for Trump, I would never date you, or if you voted for Biden, I would never date you. Like, that anger about one party or the other is, I think, what bothers a lot of people. I think there's a fair amount of people that they respect your side, but they also just want to have their own side, and they don't want to fight about it, but they're not going to demand that the guy they date is one thing or the other. I don't know. That's a tricky one, because some are just, no, I'm not going to date you if you voted for this person.
I want to give you an example of that, because I met a couple and they were in their 70s. So they've been together for a long time.
Wow.
She likes Bernie Sanders. He likes Trump. And she said they're watching the news. He mentions Trump. She gives him the finger. They laugh and they don't talk about it anymore. She goes, I don't really care what he thinks. He doesn't care what I think. So they get over it. They laugh about it, and they don't take it personally. And that's the way it should be. There's exactly. The conversation I have with people is, there's so many other things. Whenever I start getting to a debate with somebody about this and that, I was like, why don't we talk about the things that we actually like? Why do we have to keep talking about this? I said, you're not going to change my mind. I'm not going to change your mind. So why are we even having this conversation?
Yeah, I agree. It's the haters the real haters that want to go off on Facebook for an hour about how you're an awful person for liking this person or that person. That's I think what people can do without. So I think just talking about light things in the beginning, hobbies and movies and books, and you could talk a little about work. But I actually, one thing I tell women, don't ask a guy what he does for a living. Let him talk about it, because I know it sounds weird, but like, a lot of guys have told me that they think the woman asks because she wants to know what his earning potential is. So I tell women to stay away from it. Let the guy volunteer it.
Yeah. No, I agree with you, because they're like, oh, is this good? Did I hit the payload here? Am I going to be in the money? So
yeah. Let him volunteer. And don't drill him about his job or how he gets along with his family. A lot of women do that. They think they're vetting him, or they want to know if he does drugs or if he smokes. And you know what? I'm like, and I know they think they're being proactive. They think it's really smart to ask all these questions on the first date. And I don't think it is. And they say, well, I don't want to waste time. But I think it's better. It's just intrusive, annoying. I think guys just get annoyed. They're like, God, she cares too much. But also they can lie. I think you'll figure it out over a series of dates.
Well, I got to tell you a funny story about that, because one of my friends, she met a guy and she goes, I want to find out more about him. So all she did was go online. She found out he had an arrest record, found out he did this and that. So it's so much easier to find out any information without even asking the person, because then she get the truth, or he can get the truth about her, vice versa, just by going online, typing in the name. And if something pops up, like, so glad I found this out. Yeah,
that's true.
So,
You can find a lot through Google too. You're right.
yeah. So that was funny when she goes, Rich, I just met this person. Let's go find out about him. And I was with her. I was laughing so hard as his name kept popping up on all these different things. And she goes, he was so nice. He brought me flowers. And she was so.
I
know. Well, let's get on to online dating, because that's the new trend right now. Do you like online dating, or do you think people should meet the old-fashioned way?
I think both are great. I think online is, to be honest, I think it is nice when you meet the old-fashioned way. But on the other hand, I think online is probably the easiest way these days. It's so hard to meet people other ways. So I think everybody should be online if they want to be involved with somebody, because there's a wide range of people. And the problem with online dating is you do have to weed through a lot. You have to have a thick skin, because some of the guys are not nice. You have to be safe, because there are scammers. You just have to play it safe and keep an open mind. But you can meet a lot of my clients have met guys online. My exes were, a couple of them were from online dating.
Yeah. Now, what about dating sites? I'm going to get your opinion on this one. I think there's one entitled Bumble. That's where the woman makes.
Yeah, so I don't like Bumble.
I didn't think you would.
just for that reason.
Yeah.
Just because it's like making the woman the pursuer, and then the guys are all flattered. So of course they're going to respond, and then it's just all screwy, because it doesn't follow the courtship that I believe in, where man must pursue woman. Like, we want a guy that likes our type, that likes us, that comes after us. With Bumble, you don't really know.
Well, that's another good segue, because somewhere in the book you mentioned that a woman should not compliment a man. Why is that?
Yeah, I know. And that's another one that's kind of subtle. Like, a lot of women don't get that, and I might not have understood this either. So I understand why it's like some women are like, what? I just think early on, especially while you're dating and courting. When you're married, I think it's different, but I still think even when you're married, you shouldn't go overboard. I just think in the beginning with courtship, it just shows a man how much you like him, and men read a lot more into it. I think compliments are almost like saying I love you to a man. Like, they just blow it up into this, like, oh my God, she loves me.
She wants me.
Yeah.
She can't live without me.
Yeah, and then it just kills the chase. It's like it's not that he's not attracted to her anymore. It just fizzles, and then he's on to the next dream girl.
The only thing go ahead.
Well, no, I'm not saying it's like gonna kill everything every single time, but be careful, and I would say don't do it if you can help it. Try not to, especially while you're dating.
I was going to say, what if a man says, I think you're beautiful. I love your personality, and I'm so attracted to you. And then she just sits there and says nothing. For me, as the man, I would be, okay, well, is there anything she likes about me? I would get the wrong message.
Right. No, well, I just say, tell him, just smile and say thanks. You're receiving. Women are the receivers, men are the pursuers, the givers in the beginning, in the courtship phase. Okay. To be honest, I think if you're following these principles and you're saying yes to a man when he asks you out, you're giving your Saturday night up, you're dressing really hot, wearing heels, eventually you're going to sleep with him. He knows you like him, right?
Yeah, I think that's what I said before. I said, I don't mind the not sleeping.
What?
No, I was gonna say that's what I was saying before. I said I don't mind waiting the 3 months if I know that there is something there and it's gonna be leading to that. If she's playing games and I don't know if she likes me, is interested in me, if she's seeing somebody else, that's where I would maybe lose interest. But if she lets me know, it's like, Rich, I definitely, if you know, I think it's gonna get serious with me and you. I just want to wait. Like, yeah, I respect that 100%. As long as I guess there's an open, like a good conversation where we know exactly where we stand instead of just playing games.
I do tell women to be a little coy, but not dishonest. I mean, if a guy says, well, what would a guy say? What do you think a guy that might be concerned would say? Like, to me, I think a guy kind of knows that if she's seeing him every Saturday and.
Yeah. No, exactly. No, so that's what I meant by she's not playing games. But if she's acting like one day she's interested in me, the other day she's acting coy, and oh yeah, I'll see you whenever I'm whenever I'm free, whenever I can make time for you.
No,
I might start to lose interest. Yeah, no, that's yeah.
I don't believe in any of that. Playing games like that, or even I don't believe in being a bitchy either, or nasty, or rude, or complaining that he picked the wrong restaurant. Just be easygoing. That's a really important thing.
Yeah.
But if a guy says, I don't know, I think a guy can get a good feel for whether he's with a woman that likes him.
Definitely.
He should hold a little bit back so she's not getting hurt.
Yeah. Well, there's should the man and woman who are just beginning to date be friends on social media, and why?
I always tell the woman not to accept his request just because usually he'll forget about it. And I think that's a good thing, because too many women get so sucked into the social media where they see what he's doing every day and it messes with their head. Like, they see he might be with another woman, and then they get all upset. They call their girlfriend, they waste 3 hours like analyzing who was he with, and maybe it was just his boss at work. I mean, I don't know, like, it could be nothing, it could be his sister, but it's just too much ridiculous time wasting stalking someone that you like, especially if you like the guy and it's like you don't even want to look at his Facebook page. But also I just think it's tricky too, like, because then what if you break up, and well, then you got to block him or figure out how to get out of, I don't know. It just seems like too much trouble. Yeah. And even when you're dating, it's like, oh, so he, like, a lot of women are like, well, how do I respond? He liked my post and he said a couple things to me on Facebook. Should I respond? And I'm like, well, like during courtship, I think you should this is a little controversial, but I believe like you should really not talk too much during the week before you see the guy, and during the first 3 months. I think it just should be like a courtship where you're not friends during the week. You're not talking on Facebook all the time. You're not talking via text. He's lining up the dates, and then you're going out and you're getting to know each other on Saturday night. And that's what I believe. So I think that it turns you into pen pals and good friends, which is what you want to be eventually. But during courtship, I'm strict. So that's why I don't like the Facebook thing. Because
I am in complete agreement with, I think you should both have your own interests. You don't want to be doing everything together, because after a while, I'm very independent. I love my alone time. But then when I'm doing my thing, it makes the time I'm with her so much better, because I'm not with her 24/7. After a while, I'm like, oh, I need a break. It's more like what you just said, like maybe in the very beginning, only see each other on the weekends. Like, you look forward to it instead of just like, oh, here we go. So I could definitely agree with that. Like, not this current relationship works just like that. But in the past, I've had girls that were too needy. I want to be with you. What, you don't want to be with me? It's like, oh, and that just drove me crazy. The neediness is what just I can't take it anymore.
Yeah. And I think that unfortunately that's what happens a lot with women when they like a guy. Yeah, I've been there too, so I'm not judging women. I just think that's what happens especially when you like the guy. You do want to get inserted, but this kind of gives you some disciplined rules to follow. And actually, I think it works good when you have these rules.
Here's something funny I found in the book. I've never had it happen to me, but I've definitely seen it happen. It says when the woman tries to change the man, all she does do is become a nag. I mean, oh, they're like, oh, he's this, he's that. Oh, I'm gonna change that. Watch this, and that's just gonna to me personally, it would just drive me away if somebody was trying to change me. It's like, you're dating me because you want to be with me, but now you don't like the way I am, and that would just push me away. So I can't.
Yeah.
I would. It's never happened to me personally.
You're very lucky because it's very common, and
Yeah.
I think it ruins a lot of relationships, and I think a lot of people stay together too. A lot of married people stay together, but they're unhappy because they're constantly being nagged. And that's why I think I don't always take the woman's side as much as I advocate for the women, in this book, and I try to help women mainly. I think women contribute just as much to problems in relationships, like, because women do nag, and I've done it too when I was younger, before I understood all this. Like, I think I get where it's coming from. Like, you want the guy to be different, maybe because you want to help him. Even maybe you think he needs to be helped, but guys don't really want to be helped. I think they know what they want, and let them fail on their own and figure it out themselves. Like in the book, there was I don't know if you remember, there was a girl who was always nagging her boyfriend, who was great to her, who she loved. She was always nagging him about promotions and that kind of thing. And the guy doesn't want to hear it from his girlfriend. He ended up taking advice from somebody at work, and then he got a promotion, but he didn't want to hear it from her, and it really drove a wedge between them. Because to be honest, it reminds them of their mothers. I think it's very like unsexy to nag someone. Plus, it doesn't work. I don't think men will listen anyway, and he gets mad at you. So what's the point?
I think I would become more stubborn.
Yeah, more stubborn.
I'm not gonna change just because you're telling me to. So
What's that?
so my personality is, I'm very stubborn. So if somebody was trying to do that to me, I was like, no, I'm definitely not going to change now because you're telling me I have to change.
Right.
I like who I am, and if you don't like me, then go somewhere else. So that would definitely put a wedge between me and her if that did happen, because I said, you are going out with me because you like me. If now you want me to become something different, so I definitely, that would push me away.
It's human nature. I agree with you. I think it's human nature to feel the way you feel, and too many women don't really get it. Unfortunately, they think they're doing the right thing.
Well, you made another point in the book that this is something I'm trying to get better at, but I fail at. Is like, don't say something in the heat of the moment. Wait, cool down, then talk about what is bothering you. Because I'm definitely, especially when I was younger, I would just say the meanest thing, whatever was on my mind would just come out of me. Now I try to sit back, relax, and say, I'll come back later. And I'm not 100% successful with it, but it's just because I can say 100 nice things. I'll say that one mean thing. That's all she's going to remember.
Of course. Yeah. It's hard. And it's hard. And, I even with people I'm really close to, first, like relatives, like sometimes in the heat of the moment, I just want to blow up. But as I've matured and gotten older, I just do it less and less because I don't want to hurt that person. And we're all, you know what I mean? And I realize it's how hurtful it can be. And I realize just, how much nicer it is just to keep it, or just say it when you're calmer or let it go. Or say it in a calm way, because it's scary. Who wants to be screamed at in a nasty way, no matter how frustrated you are? Like, it hurts the other person more than it helps the situation.
And even though that person knows that you're just in the heat of the moment and you're mad and you really don't mean it, there's still part of you that's going to think, did she really mean? I know she was mad at me, but is there a speck of truth in that? And I'd always wonder. So
it's hard. This is hard, but I'm advocating a more civilized way of dating and relating, and it's not for the faint of heart. I think that's why this is controversial, because it's hard to do all this stuff. But it's about being your higher self and striving toward it, because we're all not perfect, obviously. Relationships are hard. Well, they can be hard. There's times when they're hard. So.
Well, I always say, I think everybody obviously has all the same feelings, all the same emotions. It's just how we react to it. Like somebody who's more secure might be able to handle it better. Somebody who's more insecure might be a little bit so, but I think we all feel the same, all hurt the same. It's just how we react to it. And that's
Yeah.
why I remember I was talking to a friend and she was going to a therapist and she was upset about how somebody said to her. And the therapist said, it's your fault. You reacted that way. I said, it's not that easy. You can't just say, all right, I'm going to completely ignore what they said. I don't care if it hurts me. I'm going to move on. It's like sometimes somebody will say something that really does hurt you. And I didn't like that advice that the therapist gave my friend. I was like, nah, I said, you can't just turn it on and off that quickly.
Right. Good point. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, name several ways that a woman can intimidate a man.
Oh.
I knew you'd like this part.
So I don't think men are as intimidated as women think. I mean, this is a really good topic because as a woman, I've heard so many women that have gotten, college educated women that have good careers tell me guys are intimidated by her because she's got a college degree or because she's a doctor or because she makes 6K or I don't know, or more than that. Or, I mean, I've heard of crazy things. I've heard of women who were on getting state assistance, but who had wealthy families say, oh, the guys are intimidated by me because my family is wealthy. Like a lot of women just, but I think it's an excuse, to be honest. I think the right man, and maybe some men are intimidated by certain things, but I really think the right man is not intimidated by certain things. He's not intimidated that you went to college. A lot of guys like college educated women.
Yes.
It's more how you're showing up in the relationship. It's more when you try to dominate him and maybe.
No, I agree with you because I can honestly say I've never ever been intimidated by somebody else's success or anything. I just don't like what you said it perfectly. When they're condescending or just the way they present themselves, that's what would get me mad. I wouldn't be intimidated. I would just be mad. I'm like, all right, you're so much better than me. I'm sorry. Like but I never ever am insecure, but I'm actually happy for people's success. And I'm happy for what they did, and just would probably inspire me to want to do better. And it would have the opposite effect. I mean, I wouldn't become intimidated by that, but you said it perfectly. It's how they act with that.
Yeah, it's how they show up and how they try to take over a man's role and maybe push things forward or what's one thing that's scary? Like when a girl goes, we have to talk.
Yes.
I had a friend tell me that, like, and she actually scared me once in a while, just because she was very, I don't know what the word is. I'm not sure what the word is, but sometimes she would even get annoyed and a little bit controlling, and she would get annoyed and say it in such a scary way. Like I actually ended up not continuing to be close friends with her because it was just too much, a little bit too many. It was just too controlling. It was just I didn't want to be told what to do and yelled at like I'm a child. But then she told me what happened with her ex, and in the voice she actually repeated what she said to him about, and it was like, we have to talk. And it was she scared me when she said it. Like it was so scary. So I'm sure she scared him away.
That's
or
funny.
Maybe he wanted to talk to her or to resolve it, but then he's like, I'm out of here after this. Like, I'm not going to talk to you. I mean, all right, we'll talk it out, but who wants to be treated like they're 5 years old? I mean, I think that's what's intimidating. That's what's intimidating.
I had a girlfriend.
Scary, right? Than anything.
Yeah. Well, I had a girlfriend. I said that one time. I said, no, let's talk now. No, we'll talk when you go. I said, let's just do it now. We were on the phone. I said, no. I said, I'm not going to be waiting 3 hours until I get out of work. I said, we need to get this over with. And she wouldn't tell me at first until we finally got out. But I hate those words. We need to talk.
Oh, I know. And then we need to talk in 3 hours. That's even worse because then you have to. I hate when people do that. Yeah. Then you have to wait.
You're thinking everything, the worst possible scenarios.
Yeah, that's the word, absolute worst. I think it's almost a mind tactic. Like, then just don't even bring it up. Let's just talk about it now.
That's exactly what I did.
No, I
And it took me
agree.
about 4 or 5 times where she finally said, all right, we'll talk about it. And it was nothing. That's what was so
Yeah.
funny about that. It was I can't even remember the instance, or I remember that situation, but I can't remember what the problem was. But I said, that was it. Why did you make it sound so like cloak and dagger?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
That's fun. Why should a woman avoid a man that hints and flirts?
Only because, okay, not that that's bad in and of itself bad. It's just that a hinter and a flirter has to close the deal by asking you out. Too many men hint and flirt, and then these women think it's gonna go somewhere, but it doesn't for years or months even, and they're wasting 6 months on a guy that hints and flirts. When a guy likes you, he doesn't hint and flirt for 6 months.
Right.
So hinting and flirting can work, but then he's got to follow up with like, hey, do you want to go out? Do you want to be in the same room with me on Saturday night? You know, you want to have dinner with me?
Yeah,
So
okay.
yeah, just don't waste time on those guys. Because this is all about not wasting time. No woman has time to waste. And to be honest, I've wasted a lot of time on all of these things. So I've pined over guys that hinted and flirted. I've had excuses too, like, or I like, oh, he's, you know, shy, or he's I don't know. Yeah, I think that was a big one too. I would think, oh, he's too shy.
I would more think it was commitment phobia. That's what it
Yeah,
sounds like.
commitment phobic, or he's getting over his last girlfriend, like, or maybe he just, yeah, maybe when I see him the next time in 3 months, he'll ask me out. But like, a guy will figure out how to see you before 3 months. Like, I just don't want women to go through that wasting time, because the thing is, when you do meet a guy that really likes you, you see how they figure it out. They will figure out a way to make it happen. And that's what I want every woman to have, to be with that guy that wants it to happen.
That's nice. I do like to hint and flirt in the beginning of a relationship, but I'm also very direct, and I let them know almost immediately what I want. I mean, I'm not too forward to scare them off, but I avoid the
Right.
friend zone before that happens. You know what I mean? So like, we're
Yeah.
having fun, having a great time, and after a couple of dates, I'm like, I don't want this to turn to the friend zone. And this is what I'm thinking. What are you thinking? So I like to have the conversation after a couple of dates of how she feels and how I feel, without scaring them off, without
Yeah.
getting too deep into feelings. Just more of a casual conversation of what I'm looking for and what is she looking for. And it's worked out for me in the past. It's
Yeah.
working out for me now. So
Yeah.
but yeah, I did in the very beginning. That's why I was asking that question, because I definitely like to do that, but I don't do it for 6 months. It's more just
Yeah. That's what I mean by that. I don't mean, too many women really waste time with guys that work.
Yeah.
Or even married men that flirt with them for months at work. Like, this happens a lot in work situations, and you have a crush on someone at work. I've heard this happen constantly with people. But then I'm like, well, has he asked you out, or has he asked you for coffee, or nothing. So no, there's usually a way. Even in a work situation, there's a way. I know work's tricky these days.
Now that you brought up a great point. I want to talk about that, because now with this whole Me Too movement, I was listening to a talk show, and he made a great point. He said, I'm so glad I'm not a kid now. He goes, when I was young, if I liked somebody, I would make a pass at her. And if she said no, all right, I'm out of here. But now that's sexual harassment. It depends on if the girl takes it that way, and she could get you in trouble. I mean, that happened in the past, but now with this social media and Me Too, anything you do, I think it's so much harder for a guy to actually let a girl know that he likes her, or even try something without her saying, whoa, what are you doing? You're invading my space. It seems like it's a little bit tougher now.
Yeah, in the workplace, I think it's definitely tougher, but I think it still can happen. I think people are still meeting in the workplace. If you're a boss, I think it's a lot harder, and I think you do have to be even more careful than if you're just a colleague, because the laws are written differently for bosses around than colleagues. So I think it's tricky. To be honest, I think even a boss can do it, but it's got to be very carefully done. I mean, because look what happened with Cuomo. Although I don't think Cuomo was seriously looking for a relationship. I think he was just looking to hit on attractive girls and maybe have really sexual relationships with them, but I don't think he was looking for anything serious. I'm all about like a serious thing, you know, waiting for the guy that's serious. And to be honest, this one's tricky, but I think there's times even still going forward where a boss is going to be attracted to a subordinate. And I still feel there's probably a way it can work out. Like, I don't think just because of the Me Too movement, you have to like give that up if that's your Mrs. Right, you know?
Oh yeah, no, I definitely agree with that.
There's a way.
It's just, it's a lot tougher now.
It's tougher. I don't even know the steps exactly right now that I would advise, because there's legal issues that he's got to consider as a boss. You can't just hit on your subordinates. So I think you've got to be very careful. And
well, even if it's going well in the beginning and she's like, no, I understand this, and then you break up, then she can go back and say, well, sexual harassment, this and that, I never really wanted that, even though it was definitely consensual while they were going out. But yeah, it's just, it's so easy for somebody to make an accusation.
I know. So it might even, right. So in that case, I almost think you've got to really like your subordinate. Even if you're a woman boss and you're going after like a male, you'd like to be with a male subordinate. Woman boss going for a male subordinate, you know, it could work that way too, and that could be considered sexual harassment. So either way, you have to be careful. Although I don't advocate women going after men. So the male subordinate would have to ask her out, and then she'd have to figure out how she's going to handle it. And you know what, to be honest though, I think if it's the one, like I think early on, you know, if maybe it's going to be something, then perhaps figure it out. Like, but if you think it's just going to be a fling, I wouldn't do the fling with anyone at work. If it's a fling, I wouldn't do it at work.
I think that's just,
if it's going to be the one,
I can't see it going well.
No, but if it's the one where and obviously you don't know for sure, but if you think there's a really good chance, then I would consider figuring out how to carefully figure out whether this can work and how it can work. But it's trickier, yes.
Very tricky. There's so many, it's so much easier for somebody to say, I didn't consent. And even though it's so hard to prove now, because just whatever somebody said, oh, it must be true, she said it, or he said it, whatever, you know. But just be careful. You have a checklist, which I actually like. I want to go down the checklist with you of what men like. Long hair, definitely love that. Take pride, huge fan of that. Add heels, you mentioned that several times in this interview. I definitely agree with that. Makeup is a must. And then the last one, I love this too. Leopard is hot. I love that checklist.
Oh, you like leopard? Good. Yeah,
Yes.
I think most men do. Yeah.
Leopard and heels. I mean, that whole checklist. I mean, I have to say,
Good.
I have met, and I'm sure you as well, there are some women that just have that natural beauty and they really don't need makeup, but I do like makeup.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's funny because I joke with a lot of women about this, because we laugh about that, because a lot of men do say, oh, I don't like makeup, but then we joke because a lot of men don't know the reality of what no makeup looks like. Or maybe you do, like
Yeah, I know, I don't.
you wake up in the morning with your girlfriend and you kind of see, you know,
Yeah,
makeup can enhance most women. I mean, even celebrities, like you'll see them
oh yeah,
out and about with no makeup, and you've seen your fair amount of celebrities, right? So
yes.
I just think makeup, even a little makeup, will enhance a look. And I think a lot of times when you see a celebrity who doesn't seem to have makeup on, she probably does have something going on, very light. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't think men really get I think men don't like harsh makeup.
Like Tammy Faye Baker. Yeah, we don't want that.
Yeah.
There's got to be a happy medium. Like maybe not too much makeup, but more than no makeup. So somewhere in the middle.
Yeah. Or just even like a slight tan. Not that I necessarily advocate tanning, but like sometimes just keeping your skin in good condition, right? It does go a long way, and just exercising gives you red cheeks. So when you're living healthy, right, you kind of do look good.
I love that list. Is that part of something that you came up with, or is that part of the rules?
That was part of my list, but a lot of it's been inspired by the rules. Yeah, I'm trying to think. Yeah, I'm sure they think they have a thing on makeup in their original book. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Which brings me to, what is the best way to get a second date?
Oh
Look
gosh,
hot.
this is a
That's what
funny
you.
one. This is funny because you know how it started, right? Because a reporter once asked me for Bustle. Oh, maybe you don't. I think that part got cut from the book. I explained the whole back history. It was a reporter from Bustle. And to be honest, actually, I can't remember if it made the book or if it didn't. Yeah, I might have cut it out at the last minute. But the reporter from Bustle asked me, "What's the best way?" She's like, and she said, is it touching a guy as you say goodbye, touching his arm? Would that work? Give me some substantial examples. And I was like, no, it has nothing to do with touching him. Actually, in fact, if you touch a guy, if you initiate the touch, it's actually, I think it's a turnoff, or it's just an invitation for him to think you're a little bit, what's the word? Overly friendly physically.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just a little bit too, I think it kills the chase. So no, I don't think touch. I just think it's an invitation for sex, even possibly. It's just, you're being too nice, and not with the first date. Like, he's a stranger at that point. So I just think being sweet, dressing nice, dressing hot. Although not too hot. I don't think you should dress like you're going on a disco on a first date, because there's no time to dress like you're going to a disco, right? Or going to a club.
Yeah.
Not on a first date, but I think dress really nice, just be sweet. Don't overshare, smile, answer questions, don't complain. I just think that, and to be honest, like, you could do all this and it still won't work out, but it might be because, there's not a lot of chemistry. And that's no one's fault. And that's one of the hardest things about this whole thing, is that you have to have a lot of, I guess, stamina. And that's why I go back to that spiritual gym section. I really believe that's who makes it, who really can withstand all this dating and online dating. A lot of women I know can't even do online dating. They just don't have enough of a thick skin, or they just, after 10 dates that just haven't worked out, they're like, this is not working. But then some women find the guy after the 50th date. I mean, I know that sounds harsh, like it's a lot, but hey, if this is your goal and you want to find your Mr. Right, keep doing it.
Online dating's good because I think people are so much busier now trying to make ends meet some people have 2-3 jobs.
Yeah.
They have all these different responsibilities. And also in online dating, you can look for somebody that has similar, and they already have it written down. I like this, I like that, I like that. And then you could tell from the picture, as you mentioned before, men are more visual. If they have a hot picture online, like, all right, well, I like how she looks. Let's see if there's more to it. And you already know, well, I don't like this, I want this. And it sort of gives you a head start before, instead of going to a bar, waiting for somebody to, can I buy you a drink? It's just, sometimes I think it's a little bit quicker and easier to find what you want through online dating.
Yeah, I think it's a great way. I mean, especially during COVID, to be honest, I don't think people were meeting any other way, because restaurants weren't around. I mean, the activities stopped. I mean, everything stopped. No, except for work. Essential workers were going to work, but it was a scary time. I mean, but I have to say, I was online dating, and I was telling my clients to date online. Because, and I was doing it in a safe way, like with wearing masks and sitting. A couple times early on, it was just walking around an area where there were people, like a public area, a town green was one area where I met someone. And another time it was at a bar that was very socially distanced. And the clients met too. Like, I had a client meet a guy and they became very serious. I don't think they're together, but they were very serious. They met during the height of COVID, but they were very careful. So, yeah, I think online was a great way during the pandemic. And even now, because like you have a good point about, lays it all out there. But also, when you get a certain age, but even when you're young, it's like, where do you go really to meet people that aren't in your social circle? Like, and a lot of people's social circles are smaller, like the older they get, or their single social circles are, because maybe their friends are married, a lot of them, or their families, a lot of their family members are married, or they've moved. So then the single social circle is smaller. So then you go online and everyone's single, or not everybody, but some people are married, but they're easily weeded out if you read my book. But
unfortunately, the whole Ashley Madison site blew up. That was for married people that wanted to have affairs.
Yeah. Well, I don't advocate that site really. I mean,
no, I would,
especially for women. I mean, I don't want women to be, well,
even for me, I don't want to be involved with somebody who's involved with, I don't know how many other people.
Right.
I want just to be monogamous. And like I said, for me, it goes back to the whole culture of diseases, AIDS, all the STDs.
It's right. Exactly.
So
exactly. And I don't advocate my women being Ashley Madison models, or, like, I don't believe in that, but it's like, if somebody wants to do it, let them do it. That's just not how I teach and what I advocate. And that's not what you're going to learn from me. I mean, yeah, I don't want women to go for married men, because I don't think it works that well. I think it's just starting off really sleazy. Even if the guy's unhappy in his marriage, he's probably going to
think the guy's going to leave his wife. Right. Oh, he told me he's going to leave his wife. They're not happy anyway.
Yeah.
He's not going anywhere. He has his cake and he can eat it too. That's all he wants.
Exactly. Yeah, I know. Well, that's a big thing. And then even when they do leave, then you wonder about the guy. Like, I was at a comedy show a couple of weeks ago. Well, I don't want to, I won't out the guy, but he kind of brought me into his act, and somehow it just became, I told him about my book, and somehow it came up that he was flirting with me, but he was married, but always kind of, this became part of that. The whole thing became part of the act between me and him, and how he wanted to sleep with me. Because he was bored with his wife, but I'm thinking, this is ridiculous. There's no way, even if this guy is truly miserable with his wife, I'm sure it was part of the act, right? Because it was, the jokes were funny, married jokes, how mean, how some comedians can get really mean, really dark and dirty, and they can even be mean, he was roasting his wife. But I was like, even if they really are on the skids and he divorces her, say I did end up with something like that, and I wasn't attracted, but part of me was thinking, I was with some people that are like, oh, what do you think? I'm like, well, he's married, and even if he ends up divorcing her, I could see him going to a comedy show 10 years later, 5 years later, and doing the same thing to some other cute blonde in the audience. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. I always say, once a cheater, always a cheater.
Yeah.
If he knows he can get away with it, or she can get away with it, both sides, and they're like, well, it worked out last time, so I don't know. There would always be a trust issue with me.
Yeah. So
if I met a girl that was married and then we started going out, I'd be like, I don't know. It wouldn't. I don't think it would work for me.
Yeah, I think that's something I tell women to consider. Just consider how you met him, and I don't think there's anything wrong with dating a guy that's already done. He's split. So even separated is okay. I think if the guy's done and he's moving out or moving on, some guys are separated and they're done. They're completely done. They're moving on, but not a guy who's married, who's hasn't sorted it out yet.
He's not going anywhere. He's gonna love the life he has. Go to work, have a nice little affair, then go back home to the family. Exactly. Yeah, but I love chapter 18. The title is "Men Respect Boundaries, Not Bitches." I love that.
Thanks. That's one of my favorites too. I like that one a lot. Because I think a lot of women think men like bitches, and I used to think that when I was younger, because I was like, why are all the cool guys that I like, why are they going out with these nasty girls that are mean? But then what I really realized was that it's not that they're mean. Some of them were okay, but I think a lot of what it was they had boundaries, and they would turn him down if he was asking them to do something that they didn't want to do. Or if he asked for a last minute date, they would say no. And I would be like, wow, that's mean. Couldn't they have been more accommodating? But now I realize that if a guy gets you that easy, he doesn't respect you as much.
Funny is that a couple of years ago, I was having a conversation with my friend. It was about politicians, and we were talking about women politicians versus male politicians. And we were saying if a male comes across as aggressive, that means he's confident, he knows what he wants. If a woman comes across like that, she comes across as a bitch, even though
Yeah.
she's trying to do the same thing. So it's so much tougher for a woman to be, maybe aggressive is the wrong word, but more secure, more knowing what she wants, more coming across as, overconfident, like, oh, she's a real bitch. And though a guy comes across like that, oh boy, he's confident, he knows what he wants. And so there's, unfortunately, I think women, it's tougher for them to come across like that without being typed as that.
Yeah, yeah. But I think with men, I think men do respect it more. Not being mean, not being nasty, but being just standing up for yourself when he's asking you to do something that's not good for you.
Well, I always say there's a difference between confidence and arrogance. I love a woman that's confident. Arrogant, no.
Yeah, totally. Exactly. I think I say something like that in the book. I totally believe in that as well. Exactly.
Name several ways a woman can help herself build confidence. You mentioned one of the things. There's journals, meditation, therapy, 12-step. You actually mentioned a couple of these 12-step programs. Create a vision board. What's a vision board?
Oh yeah, so those are all part of the spiritual gym, which I think does fuel your confidence, because it helps you on the inside build yourself up. So a vision board is just it can be something you get at the craft. You get the materials at a craft store, like put magazine images on a poster board, or you could do it on an online collage on your computer or phone. But anything that gets you into the spiritual gym, into your mind, that builds your confidence, your inner confidence. Another thing I say is fake it till you make it. Yeah. And some people disagree with this, but a lot of people agree. I think there's different people have different thoughts on this, but I think it works with clients. Because some clients just don't want to go out on that first date after they've got broken up, like with their husband, like they've never been on a date, they don't want to do it. And I'm like, just go through the actions, pretend that you're confident. Don't tell the guy you're not, like that you're falling apart, and just fake it, and then it'll get easier. And it does become easier. It just, when you just pretend you're the model that is just got off the Concorde, that'll kind of help you the first time. And I found with a lot of clients, and even I remember when my first online date, I was so nervous. It was just like, oh, it was worse than going to the dentist. It was like just horrible, like nerve wracking. But now it's like I do it like it's just meeting a friend for coffee, and like, I'm just, it's not always comfortable, to be honest, because like you don't know if you're gonna click, or you're not gonna know if you're gonna hurt the guy's feelings, or he could be a jerk, which sometimes does happen, and then you have to end it first. And but to me it's a lot easier now.
You're the expert. You know all the rules, you know exactly how to play the game. So
yeah, but also like I said, the first time I did it, it was so hard. Yeah, because
luckily said I always look at it like, well, you know what, if she's a jerk, if we don't click, I'll go on to the next one. So I've had that mentality, and it's worked well for me.
Exactly. And then you have it, and we all know, we feel like, I'm doing the best I can, and if they don't like me, there's someone that will. It's just not my time, and move on to the next. And exactly.
Well, there's a saying that when I was in radio, and they were talking about getting, if you have a tape and the first program director doesn't like it, don't throw it out, give it to the second one. If he doesn't like it, give it to the third one. And so the saying was, the more no's get you closer to a yes.
Yes.
And I agree with that in dating as well.
Yes, I don't know. Yes, I've talked about this a lot. I totally believe that. I like I love positive. That's part of the spiritual gym too. I think reading motivational books, and I do that a lot on my Facebook page. I try to post motivational sayings, and I believe in all. Even the I think it was Michael Jordan, right? Or was it Michael Jordan that said something very? I think it was something about like every. Gosh,
wait, let me guess. I've missed I missed a game-winning shot 14 times. I messed up on 12 rebounds. I failed over and over and over again, and that's why I succeed. It's something to that effect.
Exactly. I have it here somewhere. It's like one of my first screenshots because I've kept it a long time ago. And so, yep. So you said essentially what exactly.
Yep.
I love those sayings because it just makes you realize that that failure and a bad date is just one step closer to your Mr. Right. And you have to see it. You have to see it that way, or else you're not going to do it.
I always say, if you like yourself, then don't even worry about it, because you're not going to feel like, well, he rejected me or she rejected me. Who cares? Then there's, like you just said, there's going to be somebody else that does like me for who I am. It's not, that wasn't the last person on earth that I'm ever going to date. So I've never, ever really felt bad if somebody didn't like, I got to tell you a funny story about this. A friend of mine set me up with this woman, and we went out and I'll preface it with, I have cerebral palsy. So the right side of my body is affected, just the hand and the leg. And so we went out, and she said, well, we were going to go to movies, and she goes, Rich, I have to talk to you. That's one of those things, we need to talk. It's like, oh, she goes, I don't think we're clicking. And she goes, so I started laughing. She goes, it's not because you're cerebral palsy. I said, where'd that come from? She thought that I was thinking that. So I started laughing. She goes, you're not upset? I'm like, no. And so I let her drop her off at her car. I went to the movies by myself. But
I think you told me this story. I think you told me this. Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. It's
yeah.
Like, I just can't let things like that. I mean, I think maybe I have a thick skin because I've told you, I mean, I've done stand-up comedy, I've done motivational speaking, I've wrote books, I was in bands. So I'm in a lot of things that are heavily critiqued by people. Oh, you suck. Oh, you're great. So I just sort of brush myself off. I'm like, all right, well, you know what? Not everybody's going to like me, but I do have people that do like me, and I'm happy with what I'm doing. So I think probably because I've done all these, I've been in radio for a while. I've done all these things where I'm going to have people that like me and people don't like me. So when it comes to dating, it's the same way. Just like, all right, well, like with that girl, I'm like, all right, it was nice meeting you. Sorry it didn't work out. And then that was it. And I just went to the movies.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There was a great thing. Okay, so I was in a Facebook group, and somebody posted some really inspirational saying by Anthony Hopkins. Do you know who I'm talking about?
I don't know this one. I know who he is, but I don't know what the saying is.
Yeah, I mean, to me, he was always just this really good actor. He was in Silence of the Lambs, right? And
and another movie I love called Magic from 1978 with Anne Margaret.
Oh, no way. Oh, I gotta
check it out.
Yeah.
It's another horror movie from the 70s. I love it. But yeah, I know who he is.
Yeah, and I mean, I just thought of him as kind of a really intense actor, but somebody posted this saying that was so beautiful. It was, and it very long. And in one of my coaching groups, I posted it for the girls. I have a couple paid coaching groups, but I posted it. And it was really long, but that's what it was essentially all about. Like, he had some really amazing, I couldn't believe he had written it, because I just think of him as this old, intense, maybe grumpy actor, like not very insightful. Not sensitive, but this is really sensitive. Like he said, you're going to run into a lot of people that don't like you, and it has nothing to do with you. It's just the way it is. Focus your energies on the ones who like you. Don't waste, time on the people that don't. It's kind of essentially what my dating philosophy is all about. Like, I tell women, don't waste time on the time wasters. Focus your energy on the guy, Mr. Right, that comes after you, that really likes you. He was saying the same thing, but about life in general, and it wasn't about dating, it was just in general, people.
Yeah. And I'm lucky enough to have had that philosophy for years. It's funny because I've had friends, for one in particular, I've known her whole family for about almost 30 years. And I was telling her basically what we're talking about now, when she was in her 20s, and she was so insecure about this. Now she's in her, like, she's gonna be 50 next year. She's like, boy, you were so far ahead of the game now, because now she's thinking like how I was telling her to think 30 years ago. I said, don't worry about this. I said, if you never saw that person again, would it really matter? She goes, you always say that to me. She goes, now I realize it doesn't matter. Who cares? And you have to learn to love yourself first. But luckily, I've always had that mentality, and I'm very grateful for that, because nothing for the most part really bothers me at all. I don't let anything get me down.
Yeah, and like I said, like I think the example I gave you of that guy that I had the crush on and was so upset that he got engaged to this other woman, like as you get older, you realize there's usually a good reason why someone isn't with you. And when you're younger, you think, oh, I'm not worthy enough, or I'm not pretty enough, but in this case, it was just, you're just not on the same level. And now I look back and to be honest, I think he was on a shady level. I mean, I hate to put it that way, but
Yeah.
we were just, he was just kind of a hot mess. And, I was on the road to trying to become my higher self and learn and not be a hot mess, grow in the opposite direction. And he just kind of fell apart. So we were just on the wrong trajectory. But when you're younger, you think, oh, it's just because I'm not good enough or pretty enough. Or
I can always look back and say, like the time maybe when the relationship we ended, but then a couple years later, I'm like, I'm so glad it didn't work out. And there's so many different reasons why. Like one example was, I went on a trip to Transylvania. I don't know if I told you a story, and I met a girl there from Texas, and she and I hooked up. We had a great time, and then we were going back and forth, long distance dating, and I was going to move down there, and it just didn't work out. And then I'm looking at it, it's like if that worked out, I probably would have moved to Texas. I probably would have been still stuck in retail. Since we broke up, I've done comedy, I've wrote a book, I've done motivational speaking, I have a job that I love. None of that would happen if I met her. And I look, and another example, just this is, can let my viewers give an insight. If something doesn't work out, maybe it's for the best. My brother was, when he got out of college, he met this woman. He was so deeply in love with her. That was going to be his whole life. He was going to get a job in computers or get married. She was cheating on him, and he was devastated. So he went into the military, became a fighter pilot. Now he's an airline pilot. And he said years later, he goes, I'm so glad. If that worked out, I probably would have settled for some stupid job, would have had a house in Connecticut, because I never would have had that life. So sometimes you don't realize the bad things are happening for a reason.
right.
And it might take several years to realize that, but I've noticed it with my different relationships and other things in life too. And my brother had exactly the same experience where I never would have been a fighter pilot. I never would have done this. I probably would have had a job that I hate. He probably would have resented her for living that life that he doesn't really want to live. It's just, so sometimes it works out for the best when the relationship doesn't work out.
Yeah, rejection, I think, is redirection.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, or God's protection. Some people, if you're religious, yeah.
Now, why do you say a woman shouldn't treat a man like a king until after they get married?
It kind of goes back to like the whole why you shouldn't give him compliments. It just it fuels his ego. It makes you turn into his errand girl, his house cleaner, his whatever, his cook, before you're on one another's teams. And until like I think then he could start taking advantage of you, and he thinks he's got you, and maybe he does have you. He probably does if you're doing all this for a guy, and then he doesn't treat you as well. He may not even end up marrying you. Like in the book, with the example, the guy didn't marry her. He had a maid, she was doing everything for him, but he didn't end up marrying her, and she was devastated. She wasted all this time with him. But I think once you're married, I think you should treat him like a king. I think it just totally, so that's one reason why I think a lot of women they're like, what? But it's not that I don't believe you shouldn't treat a guy well and cook for him. But when you're married, I don't think you should do so during courtship. I don't think we should be courting men. I think they should be courting women.
That's another great segue. You've done this before, haven't you? Why is it so important for a man to love a woman more than she loves him?
So this is a little bit tricky to explain, but a lot of women probably have heard this from like their older relatives, because I know I did. I heard it from older relatives, and a lot of older women I've heard say this, and I didn't get it when I was younger. I get it now. I think in general, I think, because it's more balanced that way, because women tend to be more emotional than men. We tend to fall harder. And so sometimes when there's a little bit of, if you like the man more, even if you're married, you're always kind of wondering like where he is. You're always jealous. Like, even if he's a good guy and doesn't cheat, like you're always wondering about like, oh, is he like that pretty secretary? Or, but then when he loves you a little bit more, or maybe not love, but like when he's just a little more into you, a little more doting. It's not that you don't love him, but he's just a little more after you, you're more content, because then you don't worry. He's coming right home. He wants you.
You know what? I definitely can understand that.
Yeah.
If she's a little bit insecure, it's going to give her the confidence and security. Like, then the man can leave, and she doesn't have to worry about what he's doing. Because I've had girlfriends like that in the past where I broke up with somebody, because I had a feeling she was cheating. I couldn't prove it. And people were telling me, oh, you shouldn't just do that because you don't know for sure. I said, I don't like the fact how she's making me feel. Like, all damn, who's she with now? What's she doing? And she gave me so many reasons to not trust her. And I just said, I have to end it because I'm not happy with this. And it's not, I just don't see it going anywhere. And I didn't like the feeling that she made me like, right, worrying
Wow.
that with somebody.
I
don't know. Well, here, I'll give you the example. She, well, one thing was, I know that you said would multi-date, but she had this guy keep calling her. I said, well, why don't you tell him that that you and I are going out? I don't have to tell him anything. I said, all right, whatever. But then she had a landlord who she told me she was going out with before, and he used to come over her house at 3 a.m. I said, he just wanted to fix the light. I said, at 3:30 a.m. I don't think so.
That's a little weird, right?
Yeah, it was. And she would never ever deny it or admit it. So she wasn't even adamant. Like, I'm telling you, Rich, I'm not doing anything. Wouldn't even try to do that. She's like, I don't have to prove myself to anybody. And I was like, okay, you don't. You're right, but I don't have to live like this either. So yeah, I don't know if she was, but I'm gonna say yes. An educated guess would say she was cheating on me.
Yeah.
So I definitely agree with what you're saying and how you're saying. It's like if the person, because I cannot be with somebody I don't trust. Even if I can't prove it, I just can't be with somebody that I'm not sure where they are, what they're doing. I mean, I love having a girlfriend that when she goes out, all right, see you later, and then I don't even have to think about it, and then I go and do my own things. Like I said, I have so many different interests. I love being independent, and I love when she goes out, does her thing, and I'm having fun too. And then when we get together, we have the best time.
Yeah.
So I when I was reading that, I agreed with that. I said,
good. I'm glad. Because that's a tough one sometimes for people to understand, because they think, oh, everything should be equal, but
yeah, nah.
Men and women are different. That's kind of what it boils down to. And that's why the book is about A Woman's Guide to Understanding Men. I want women to understand that men are different. And sometimes we forget that in this modern world, Yeah.
Now let's get to the breaking up part, because you talk a little bit about this. And why is it so hard for a man to break up with a woman?
It's funny. I just think men have a hard time hurting a woman's feelings. It's hard for women too to break up with men, but I think men end up just leading women on and treating them really bad, or trying to get them to break up with them first, because they don't want a scene, they don't want an emotional woman, they don't want her to cry. I don't know. I mean, I've just seen it time and time again where men just can't come out and tell you the truth, but they start treating you shabbily. That's a good sign that he is moving on. And sometimes you don't even need to hear it. Just if he starts skipping Saturday night, starts treating you crappy, skips your birthday, like, he's moving on. He's not telling you gracefully, like he's just moving on, or he's cheating, or I don't know. I think I've talked to a lot of guys about this, and they agree. If they have the hardest time, sometimes just saying, I'm not into you, I don't like you. I don't see a long-term future with you. That's why you have to watch the actions. But there's a funny story with a guy who scrubbed himself with Comet because he lied to a girl. He didn't want to see her again for a second date. And he's like, I have a bad sunburn. This is a true story.
Wait. Tell my viewers this. I read the story, but tell my viewers the story. I thought it was hilarious that he went to this like.
I didn't even know I was going to write the book when this guy told me this. Really, well, I was going to say how I know him, but guy I've known a long time. It was the funniest story I thought back then. So, and I included it in the book because it helped prove the point that he really couldn't tell this woman after they went on one date, second date, she liked him. She wanted a second date. And he did say, I'll call you. He said, I had no intention of calling her, but he just said it because a lot of times guys just say it to get out of this, be polite, and then they want to get out of the situation. She called him. He's like, no, I have a sunburn. I can't get together. She knew where he lived. So she just drove to him. And then he's like, oh, great. She's going to see me and I don't have a sunburn. So he was like, yeah, he went into the shower and he scrubbed himself with Comet, which is an abrasive cleaning powder. He scrubbed himself, I think, on the face, the arms. I know, this was unbelievable. And I thought it fit perfectly in the book because it proved that how hard it is for men sometimes to tell the woman. So even when she got there, he did say, I don't feel good. She came into the house. He obviously acknowledges he should have handled it a different way, but he was, he didn't know what to do. So she came into the house. She dropped her night bag, like she had a bag. She dropped it on the floor, overnight bag. And she said, oh, you look fine. He's like, I'm sick. She's like, oh, you look fine. And he didn't kick her out. They just hung out. He said, I couldn't sleep with her though. And then she left. And then, cause he kept saying, I'm sick. She finally left and then didn't go anywhere, but he could not tell her that, hey, I'm not attracted to you.
Right. She didn't take the hint though. I mean, there's so many clues there.
I know, but a lot of women don't. Like they really take the guy at face value. He says he's sick, so they really do think he's sick. That's the thing. That's why I wanted women to realize words don't always mean anything unless they're followed up by actions. So you got to be careful.
I have to say, you definitely have a very interesting and somewhat controversial. I personally don't think it's too controversial, but I definitely understand why some people might. But I think it has a lot of great information in there for women, and I highly recommend to all my viewers, buy this book by Karenna Alexander. You can buy it, Amazon.com?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anywhere, where's a good place if somebody needs advice or would like advice, where can they reach you?
My website, KarennaAlexander.com.
KarennaAlexander.com.
Or just email me, KarennaAlexander@gmail. I have another one, Coach Karenna at KarennaAlexander.com, but that's a long one to remember over the phone. I mean, over the. But yeah, here's the book.
Yep, I'm telling you, I think it's a must for every woman out there. And you said you have a lot of great advice and you have a lot of great tips for them. And it's a crazy world out there. There's a lot of crazy people, so just be careful, I guess.
Yeah, be careful. It'll give guidelines, good guidelines.
Karenna, is there anything else you want to add before we go?
No, I think that's it. Thank you.
Yeah, it was so great to have you on the show. I had you on my other show. That was only a half hour long due to time constraints. So I'm so glad we had more of a chance to elaborate and talk about so many other things. And as always, you're a great guest. I'd love to have you on the show next time you come out with something new or you have something more to talk about, because I could talk to you for hours.
Yeah. We'll definitely do it. Yeah. And I think it's funny. It's great to be here because I think when I was on the show last, I don't think the book had come out yet.
Yeah.
And it's always hard getting a book out. So
yeah, well, congratulations on that. Now, is it self-published or do you have a publisher?
Yeah, self-published.
I love self-published. That's how I came out with mine. And I love the fact that there's so many things. I always have this conversation. I think for musicians, it's tougher because they're not making as much money with people downloading their music, but it also gives up and comers more of a chance to be heard when they probably would never be heard in the past. Same thing with authors. I mean, that book is so professional looking. Mine is the same way. You could see it on a bookshelf. You would never know it was self-published. I think it gives people who have something to say to get their thoughts out and do it in a professional way. So I'm all for self-publishing.
Exactly. I just wanted to get it out there and get it out there quick.
Are you writing another one?
Yeah.
Okay, what's that going to be about?
Well, I haven't really, I'm not really talking about it yet,
Well, you know what? You're going to have to come back on the Claus Corner.
but it's dating.
Well, that I figured.
Dating related, helping women through another avenue.
Now, I know you mostly help women. Do you have any males that come to you and say, I need your advice?
Yeah, like 5% are men.
All right. Well, Karenna, thank you very much for being on the
Thank
show.
you.
It was great
That was
talking to you.
fun.
And that wraps up the latest episode of the Claus Corner. A huge thank you goes out to my guest, dating coach, former matchmaker and journalist, Karenna Alexander. I would also like to thank you, the viewer, for tuning in. Enjoy your day, everyone.